In Iowa overnight. His first trip back there since taking office. He spoke for more than an hour, at times veering off script, at times a venting session. I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Jon Karl, this morning. John, in many ways, President Trump sounded a lot like candidate Trump all over again, but it was what he said about who he wants to lead his economic team and poor people that's making news this morning.
These are people that are great, brilliant business minds, and that's what we need. That's what we have to have, so the world doesn't take advantages of it. We can't have the world taking advantage of us anymore. And I love all people, rich or poor, but in those particular positions, I just don't want a poor person. Does that make sense?
John, this is a president who campaigned on the forgotten man. What was this all about? Was he planning to say that?
Well, it doesn't appear that it was part of the prepared text, David, but this really isn't all that different from what he said during the campaign. If you remember, he promised to put what he called Wall Street killers in his cabinet. He talked about the fact that they made themselves rich. He would put them to work making the country rich. And if you look at his cabinet, he's followed through on that. This is perhaps the wealthiest cabinet we've ever seen, certainly his economic team.
And John, as you point out, just like he did in the campaign as well, he talked about the wall last night, about Hillary Clinton, crowds chanting, "Lock her up." But there was only this about the Russian investigation consuming much of Washington. Listen to this.
I mean, they have phony witch hunts going against me. They have everything going. And you know what? All we do is win, win, win. We won last night. They can't believe it. They're saying, what is going on? What is going on?
The win last night, he was talking about that Georgia special election. He's calling it a witch hunt, John. It was clear he's much happier being out of Washington all over again.
Yeah, it was the first time since April that we'd seen him in one of these campaign-style rallies, clearly enjoying it. He spoke for more than an hour, and that witch hunt label is now his branding of this investigation. He calls it that over and over again in his tweets, in his speeches. It is a witch hunt. Of course, David, the interesting thing about that so-called witch hunt is in the House and the Senate, it is being led by Republicans. And, of course, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is also a lifelong Republican.
Yeah, that's not going away anytime soon either. Jon Karl, thanks to you. I want to bring in our chief political analyst, Matt Dowd, a little more on this. The president saying all we do is win, win, win. And really, Matt, in at least one respect, he's right. The special election in Georgia, the most expensive congressional race ever, the Republican winning, president now 4-0. If the Democrats were hoping to capitalize on what's going on in Washington, they haven't yet.
Well, David, as we saw after the November election, I don't think either side is learning the right lessons from these election losses or election wins. First, Democrats are in a position now where they keep claiming that they're playing well and they're getting a lot of hits on this, but they have to start scoring some runs to prove they can win these elections. And I think they need to do two things. They need to figure out the right messenger to deliver the message both nationally and at the candidate level, but they have to have a message that's not personalized towards Donald Trump. They have to have a message that says, why is what Donald Trump is doing bad for Americans, especially economically? The second thing, David, is I think Republicans better figure out to do some course correction. Keep in mind in 2009, when Barack Obama won the election, they had 5 special elections. The Democrats won all 5 of them and then went on to lose the House in 2010.
All right, we'll see if history is repeated. One quick question, Matt, on health care today. Millions of Americans finally learned what's in the Republican senator's plan. Why the secrecy?
Well, you obviously are having secrecy because they think they're doing something that the American public doesn't want. It's as if you walk in your living room and your kids are trying to hide something under the cushion. You know they did something wrong, and I think that's a real problem.
All right, Matt Dowd with us this morning. Thanks so much for your insight. Matt always says it like it is.
He certainly does.